Hello and welcome back to another episode. Today you join me, well, in a graveyard. But that's because this is one of the quietest, most peaceful places I know in Wallsend. Sometimes in the morning I like to come here to St. Peter's graveyard and just relax a little bit among the dead. But more to the point, in such a beautiful setting. This morning the sun is rising gorgeously. The back of the graveyard has been given over to sort of meadow. They've had like a no-mow May or no-mow summer, as it were. Good for insects and bird life and all that kind of thing. And I'm away from the traffic. I'm away from the impending noise of the day, and I can just sit and think for a little bit. So I like to come here sometimes with a coffee and try and relax. And that's actually the whole focus of this video. This is going to be a fairly minimal video in terms of editing, because actually today I'm about to pack and head down to East Yorkshire, a place called Humber, not too far from where we were on holiday a few days ago, ironically enough, to film at a Roman fort excavation. So I've got things I need to do, but also I really wanted to talk today about some thoughts that occurred to me while I was on holiday, because for the first time in quite a while I'd actually taken a proper break. Not the full 2 weeks that I'd hoped, but I managed about 6 days of proper relaxation. Well, proper time off. Relaxation is hard for me, but that's precisely the focus of this video. In so much as I realised while I was away that that I'm an anxious person. Now, really? You're an anxious? No, I always knew that I was anxious, but I realised just what it was doing to me while I was away. When I got back, I sort of likened it to listening to an orchestra where all you can hear is one trumpet blaring away. You know, and again, the jazz can be fun. It can be even a little bit edifying if you're listening to it. But if you just want to hear the full range of the orchestra, the full range of life in this metaphor, then a trumpet out of control is harmful. And that's precisely what anxiety has been for me and is for me and continues to be for me. Now the thing is, I thought I'd put all of this away. I thought I'd put a lot of this away when I did some talking therapy a few years ago. Talking about my childhood and things that happened to make me anxious. In that sense, the person I was speaking to, her name was Sarah, she highlighted that in many ways anxiety was great for me at one point in my life. It quite literally saved my life and my brother's life on multiple occasions, and therefore you sort of think, well, if being aware of danger has kept me safe, then maybe I should just be aware of all danger at all times, and then you never quite know when to stop being aware of danger. And that sort of got me through university. It got me through exams. It got me through moving to different parts of the country. It sometimes, again, when you're hearing the trumpet, when you're hearing the jazz, when you're hearing the free form blaring of the brass instrument, you can feel as though you can convince yourself that you're feeling and hearing really great music. You're on the ball, you're aware, you're focused, you're doing things, you're achieving things despite the pressure. But it's exhausting and it wears you out and it does things to your physiology. It means it is physically hard to relax. It raises your heart rate. It shallows your breathing. It has an effect on your vision, on how you see the world, quite literally around you, and it's harmful. And it was highlighted by two particular things on this break, on this holiday. The first one was actually, it became quite a problem one day. Actually, it was the gazebo. We set up a lovely purple gazebo next to the van in the field where we were staying, and gazebos act as a bit of a sail, especially in a fairly open field which we were in, and there was lots of flapping and flopping and slight quivering of the structure, even though I know that this is a very good, it's a professional gazebo that we have. I have it for summer events for my educational work. £200 gazebo, it was a proper investment. Even though I knew it was a solid thing, and I'd put, good 9-inch stakes into the ground, and we even got more stakes, high quality stakes for the walls as well. There was one day in particular when I just could not switch off from worrying about the gazebo. Was it going to blow away? When we took the van into Beverley, for example, to go and see Beverley Minster, and there were a few photos I took from that day that made it onto the Instagram page, for example. All the while I was taking those photos, I was really struggling to let go of this nagging thought, this anxiety, this trumpet blaring in my ear saying, is the gazebo okay? Will the gazebo blow away? What if it hits another person? What if it hits another vehicle? I can't afford to pay for that damage. What if the investment is lost just because you're on holiday? Isn't that irresponsible? And it just spirals up and up and up, and before you know it, you're nowhere near reality. You're just on a headwind of worry and almost panic, actually. So that was number one. And also, actually, what was really nice, just to one side, is actually not only was the weather for the most part quite nice, but also when it rained, it was that lovely atmospheric kind of rain. We had a couple of minor electrical storms, one of which made us take down the gazebo because it could have got a bit serious, but for the most part it was very pleasant. The other thing that highlighted my anxiety on our holiday was, and actually both of these things, the gazebo and this, happened when Ruth was visiting. She visited for 24 hours, and we had a conversation. She's very good at sometimes talking to me in a way that not that my lovely wife isn't good at this, but Ruth sometimes can just cut through something with logic in a way that just appeals to a different part of my brain. And she just started asking, "Are you okay? Why are you so anxious? Why are you so..." And I was like, I'm not anxious. And we started to identify that there were just certain things in the context of being in the small environment of a camper van that you can't get away from. And if it's setting off your anxiety, if your sensitivity is heightened, then it's understandable why you would notice this stuff. And what we identified was the fact that within the confine of the camper van, but also in broader daily life, she had noticed this when she comes for visits. I get very irritated, physically irritated, agitated when washing up needs to be done. So when we've finished eating, I find it really hard just to sit down and have a conversation. I need to go and do the washing up. Or when there's stuff piled up on the table, I need to tidy it away, and so on and so forth. And what we identified with a bit of a conversation, and my lovely wife was really happy that we had this chat, was that in addition to things like extraordinary worries about the gazebo, I also have a tendency to have a discomfort with things that are in transition, things that are moving from one fixed seemingly state, or one arbitrarily fixed state, as far as I'm concerned, as it were, things that I identify as a state of being to another state of being. In between A and B, I get very uncomfortable. Now again, this may be linked with childhood uncertainty and words like trauma, this kind of thing. But in this instance, either the plate is filled with lovely food, or it's nice and clean. And in between those two, there's this really awkward, messy, slightly unpredictable state where maybe, there is a stack of plates with food residue on it, and maybe everything else is getting a bit grimy, and maybe that doesn't happen immediately. But and this is what Ruth asked, what's the worst that could happen in that situation? What's actually going to occur that's so bad that you need to fix this immediately? And that was a very good question. Because I couldn't answer it, because there is no answer. So what? The plates are dirty for an extra 10 minutes. It's not the end of the world. But again, the trumpet was blaring, and I think the context of being away for a week or so, or being off for 6 days or so, really highlighted that for me. The trumpet had been blaring, and in the context of pandemic as well, I just hadn't noticed the trumpet was getting louder and louder and louder. Now, what was also cool was that she also said, now, of course, it's perfectly okay to want to clean the plates. And of course it is. It's absolutely okay to want to clean the plates. So I did the washing up. But do the washing up. I suppose it was my lesson. Do it. Don't worry about what happens if you don't do it. And don't worry about the fact that it needs to get done. Make the food, enjoy using the cutlery, then wash up. It sounds really simple, doesn't it, when you put it that way? But again, anxiety, man, I've really come to a proper realization that it colours your worldview in the same way. I know this about depression. I know this about other mental health struggles. That part of the problem is that you create a reality for yourself, and then it's hard to get out of that bubble. But the past couple of weeks have really highlighted to me that the trumpet was blaring, that my view of how to get out of that, and also try and think my way out of it, that's not necessarily possible on its own, wasn't working. And also that I wanted desperately to start hearing more of the orchestra. And so I mentioned this last night on the Mad Max live stream. I've started doing some work that was left for me, some homework, 7 modules of homework that was left for me after the talking therapy about anxiety. Generalized anxiety disorder is what it was called. And so we've started doing that. My lovely wife and I last night, I was in the midst of another freak out. I was starting to worry about things that really don't warrant that much worry. And so instead of feeling bad, we decided to sit down and start this first module. Instead of me just feeling anxious about having felt anxious, we decided to start this thing, which I had itself put off for years because of anxiety. I was anxious about what these modules would contain. What would the challenge be like? Confronting these things or doing this work. So we started it, and I'm hoping to try and make some progress. And one of the ways that I need to make progress is in accepting that the worst has never happened. So far in my life, the worst has not happened. Even in the context of a global pandemic, the worst has not yet happened to me. The worst thing I can imagine, that is, has not yet happened. And it never seems to happen. Bad things happen, good things happen, but the worst thing, the thing that I worry about, hasn't happened. And that's not because I've worried about it. That's the other thing as well, is that you get this in your head that somehow being aware of the tiger means the tiger won't pounce at you. That's not true. It's not true. Being aware of the tiger will help you avoid the tiger, but sometimes if you're imagining a tiger all the time, that's not remotely helpful. And it's certainly not stopping the tiger from being there imagining that it's there. So, I don't know, this is a slightly rambling video. I just wanted to talk about this stuff because these thoughts had occurred to me, and I think they're important because they relate to everything. They relate to how I think about my future, how I think about my marriage, how I think about what I'm doing with work, how good I am at what I do for work, how I approach decisions when it comes to art and to making, and because when I'm worried constantly, I'm not actually solving. Well, solving is the wrong phrase, but I'm not actually enjoying or making or overcoming the thing that I'm worried about. I actually make my worries come true. So if I worry that, oh no, I'm not producing enough, enough useful stuff, I don't know, art or video or whatever, the worry fills up so much time that of course some of that stuff doesn't have time to happen, or I don't feel fully happy with what I have had time to do and to make. It's stifling, and hence I need to tackle it, and hence I'm going to try and tackle it. And one of the ways that I need to tackle it is by embracing this idea that not only accepting that the worst has not happened, but also actually good things are quite likely to happen. I just need to accept that. And that's really hard. Right? Even saying it right now is really, really difficult. But I'm here. I'm in the calm of the graveyard. I'm about to pack and do some lovely location shooting. I'm trying not to get anxious about that. It's a constant struggle, but it's one that I feel as though I'm ready to win. And this is actually something that my lovely wife pointed out to me last night, was that one of the reasons why I was so uncomfortable when I started worrying last night is that, as she put it, I'm at a stage now where I'm pre-contemplation, as she puts it. She does social work at a local hospital, so she talks to families about treatments and some of the issues that that happen when people are thinking about what's about to happen to them or whatever. And she said, I'm pre-contemplation. I'm aware that I need to make a change, that I want to make a change, and even though it's the habit of a lifetime, it's a well-worn path, this worry path. Something. Oh look, the grass is quite long. I need to cut it immediately, otherwise, it all falls into that valley and continues down that well-worn path. And that's why I'm increasingly uncomfortable, because I'm ready to change. I want desperately to change, and I can recognise that beyond this change is a happier, more content, more productive, dare I say, God forbid, human being that I want to be, and I know I can be. Yeah. So there we go. These ideas came to me while I was away, probably because I had the headspace to actually start thinking about it, and to recognise where I was, and to recognise the trumpet blaring in my ear, distracting me from even the most simple pleasure of just sitting in a field reading a book. Incidentally, I got hold of some really lovely stack of Beano annuals from the mid-90s while I was on holiday, and the game of Bagatelle, sort of like a proto pinball type game. But I'm going to make a video on next week, the joys of Bagatelle, and also I want some Bagatelle tips in the comments for that video if possible. So yeah, look out for that. Basically, if you don't know what Bagatelle is, or if you do know what it is, I just wanted to sort of quickly just introduce what the board, how I got it, what I think of it, and ultimately ask for some tips, because I feel as though there'll be techniques for Bagatelle, mysterious arts that I can learn. Well, the sun is now over the trees. The coffee is definitely at drinkable temperature, and I need to go and start packing. I'll leave you with one final question, one final thought that occurred to me amongst these other thoughts while I was away. And it occurred to me after a couple of days of reading comics in a field, I simply asked myself the question, when did the future for me become a decreasing sequence of limitations as opposed to an increasing realm of possibility? Now, it may well be, and I think it's likely, that actually quite early on I started to think of the future as a series of risks to be managed and to be terrified of in some way, and that's only increased as things like global warming and bad politics and so on and so forth have taken over the world, it seems. But I realised I don't want to be living like that in my head. I don't want that to be the way that I think of the future. I want the future to be full of possibilities and to be full of potential and to be full of things that I'm not yet doing or things that I want to do and can do. And I thought that was a really important thing question to ask myself, was what is the future to you? Why do you think of the future in the way that you are, the way that you do? And in that question is a world of possibility. Anyway, yes, I need to finish my coffee, do a quick edit on this, and then start packing for driving down to Yorkshire. Thank you guys for watching. If not fun, hopefully this has been vaguely interesting to you in some way. And until next time, do take care. Bye bye.